All right, I believe we're on again. So, welcome back, folks. Welcome back, everybody. You know what? This time I'm just gonna leave the smiley face alone. This is Safe Sakalala, and we are continuing with our long live people and you can learn anything campaign. This series right here, there's the current sets of the current set of videos rather is about project management, meaning in particular, I'm trying to help you all, those of us that are about to take the PMP exam, like myself. I already have a CAPM, as you can see. I have it noted here. But those of us that are prepping for the PMP exam, this video is right here. I'm meant to try to just kind of help you have a big picture understanding of the concepts of project management. Um, you know, before as you study for the exam. All right, and so normally I do shout outs. I'm skipping them in these videos because I'm trying to be efficient with my time. I don't want to bore you guys, talking nonstop. All right, but I do want to, give a shout out to Flask as my Code for Philly project that I work with, and Professor Belinda Goodrich herself. She's Professor Goodrich. I'm using her materials to draw the content from I'm drawing the content from there for those videos. All right, let's get right to it. And forgive me, folks. From time to time I might have to like clear my nose. It sounds nasty. I'm so sorry. Excuse me. All right, so let's get started. So first disclaimer, I have to just give this one because don't I don't. First of all, if you're prepping to take the PMP exam, then by now you're in the industry or you just about what you're supposed to do, like what your requirements are, etc. So you don't these videos are not going to be enough for you to just to pass. No, certainly not. The exam is going to be very, very hard, and so if you don't have a CAPM, which I do, PMI requires you. PMI is the organization that issues the certifications, the CAPM and the PMP and many others actually. So the higher you go as a project manager, the more certifications you can earn, which helps you just become better and better at your job. So again, you know, this is not enough. These videos, you gotta really study hard. Okay. All right. So let's get right to it. Let's continue. So this is part three. Overview is three chapters from Professor Goodrich's book are cost, quality, and resource. Okay. So starting with chapter 7 is project cost planning. All right. And as I mentioned in the previous video, excuse me, as I mentioned in previous video, I mentioned, I'm emphasizing, like you see how I'm putting it in red and in a different color in the title sub slide here, planning, because you have planning and management. All right, so this goes back to, remember the process groups in the beginning. So those five process groups that you got to pay attention to in terms of initiating, the very beginning and closing at the end. And then you have within the sandwich in the middle there is planning, executing, monitoring and controlling. And so with management, like planning is its own column. Remember, I told you before, when you do a count, you'll find that 24 out of the 49 total tasks in terms of process groups versus knowledge areas. 24 tasks out of the grand total in this matrix are from the planning column. All right, but so in this slide you have planning. So some chapters are planning, and other chapters emphasize management, which you can just assume that you draw from the executing and monitoring and closing parts for the most, just roughly for the most part. I mean, again, it's dynamic. Remember what we said before is the plan, do, check, act cycle. And so it keeps repeating throughout the whole project, but you should do have a hard, like you launch the project and eventually you finish the project. So again, I hope this is meant to just kind of help you have the big picture in mind here. Okay. All right. So the first chapter that we're looking at, we have. Remember, each video has we're covering three chapters each in each video. So this one, as I mentioned already, just going back to the beginning slide, we have cost, quality, and resource. So starting with cost. So here's what I do here. Like I show, I show you. You know, this is we've said this. If you're especially maybe couples, right? Like those of you you live with a partner, or your significant other. You know, you have kids, you whatever. Just you just live together, or you've been in a situation before, and this question right here in the top, the number one point. So, how much do we need? You know, like maybe it's a trip. Y'all are planning a trip to go to Europe. Just the airline, you know what I mean? And then so the airline ticket is gonna cost us, maybe I don't know, $1,200 or something like that. But what about the hotel and food and stuff when we get there? And what I'm saying here is just the way you say it, the way you should do it, or the way you do it. Those of us, if you're wise enough by now, if you've learned the hard way, do not be naive. Okay, so better. So you want to assume that you need this is going to cost you a lot more than what you're thinking. Folks that have maybe commissioned building houses here in the United States, like you've had a custom built house, and so you've engaged, like maybe the process is a little similar to the way you do a mortgage, in the sense that maybe you have a bank that approves the deal for you and is financing it up front, and then you pay the bank the mortgage, whatever. I mean, like, well, actually, you know what? The United States is neater. In countries in Africa, in Africa, excuse me, countries in Africa, like where I'm from in East Africa, in particular, or just all over. And I was talking to this gentleman right here, is from Jamaica. He said it's the same thing. They build houses themselves there, in the sense that you don't quite the mortgage, the concept of like just going to a bank and getting a mortgage and whatnot is still, it's more and more, it's getting there. That system is has crept in, but for the most part, what they have, what folks do is just the kind of commission the houses themselves, right? And so those people, like if you know a little bit about that, you know that in the end it costs you a lot more. In the United States, actually, if you're doing a renovation, you know about this as well, right? In general, like this sounds familiar to many of us, right? Like, do not assume, don't be naive. Like, if you think it's gonna cost you, maybe the budget you need is $5,000 US, you want to add, maybe you want to pad that. You want to, add, assume that there'll be unforeseen costs, and add minimum maybe 2,500 to that. That way you have a grand total of, like, nominally you have 5,000, right? But if need be, there's a reserve of 2,500 that you can draw from, right? In fact, in the technical terms that you'll see, and when it comes to cost and all that, and these different chapters, you have management reserve, contingency reserve, and that's all. That's what we're talking about there. But anyway, some concept examples here, and I googled these before. I did not. I checked to make sure that, like, I'm not giving you impossible homework. When I googled them, the answers come up. Some of them, like one of them here, the one up front, up top. And just to be clear, let me just kind of change the color real quick. Let me change it to yellow. So this is the one I'm referring to is the first one here, under the second, the first sub point under the second bullet point, rough order of magnitude. So some terms do sound just the way it sounds, right? It intuitively, what it sounds like is technically what it is, but don't just make that assumption. You want to you want to really study up on these things. And then these other two, again, my homework for you is Google them. I already did, and I know that you'll find them once you do Google them. All right. But plus, the materials that you use for whichever, if it's a boot camp, if it's Professor Goodrich's book, you will come across these terms. Okay, so that's for cost. Project quality. So it depends on the industry here. For the most part, I mean, for the most part, you want to have good quality. I don't care if it's let's say we're calling the example that I've come up with for this slides is, you are the PM, you're the project manager for with a construction consulting company. All right, so you guys you do consulting in terms of, or you manage your construction management company. And the Jones family, remember, the Jones family has hired you guys, your company to supervise a project, or they maybe they're a repeat customer, they come back to you guys, or you've you're a long-standing client of theirs. So regardless, so that's building, that's construction. Quality is very important, but depending on your industry, it can be very For instance, let's say you're a manufacturer of medical equipment, right? Or let's maybe food even. It can be very very dangerous, like cars, right? So it's like if you have, and you usually hear those companies do recalls and whatnot. It can be very dangerous, very expensive, legally just very just a big old mess if you don't manage the quality closely. And some more homework for you here. You have Deming, Duran, and Crosby. So these are folks. These are names. What are their approaches to quality? So and then some. This one might not be. So one of these. So for instance, Kaizen. So some of you might be familiar with Kaizen. If you own a Toyota, and those of us, we know the good quality of white, how Toyotas are. That's one company that has used the Kaizen technique, continuous improvement. One of those folks, I believe, when you Google it, you'll see that one of them actually talks about continuous improvement. But again, just familiarize yourself with who says what. So one of these guys, for instance, another clue here for you, talks about the 80-20 Pareto principle. So 80% of defects come out of 20% of, I believe, tasks, right? But again, you want to familiarize yourself with in terms of who came up with what concept or principle, okay? Or just, yeah, who formalized it in the literature, okay? And finally, for this set of slides, you have resource management. And this one, when you hear resource, you might assume, money or let's say materials and stuff, and you're right, for sure. But the thing is, and so some of the technical terms, when you look at the first sub point, the first bullet point, rather, excuse me, you have resource breakdown structure. Some of the technical concepts here that come out of that resource management subdomain, resource breakdown structure, alternatives analysis, excuse me, etc. But what I'm pointing out here to you all is do not, in fact, like the human resource management aspect of it is very very important as well. You got to pay attention to it. As a project manager, if you don't know how to so we've already talked about the stakeholder, how you have to manage stakeholders, right? In terms of communicating with them, keeping them happy, etc. So let's the sponsors, let's say, or legal department or whatever. But your people, like as the project manager, you're in charge. You're the boss, so to speak, and so you want to pay attention in terms of keep your employees or your subordinates happy, right? Like uh, conflict resolution is something that will come up. You'll have managers bicker or whatever, then you have the five stages of team development: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Excuse me. Read about those. You wanna kind of what are those? What does each of these mean? And what's going on in each of them? It's actually really interesting when you read about them. So again, for the exam, there's some concepts that you want to familiar. Good lord, make yourself familiar. Just learn them. All right, learn them and learn them well. All right, so that closes us out for part 3 of our project management series. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've watched till the end. Actually, I'm really these videos are not as long. I'm striving to keep them as brief as possible. If you've liked it, by all means, please share, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the upcoming one. In the next video, which is going to be in the next video, which is for now. So the last I'm recording today is part 4, which is I might as well just go there actually and show you risk, communication, and procurement. All right, see you soon.